Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to review Cyberpunk 2077 and if you have an RTX 3090. You've got the 30 series flagship card and you're looking at trying to play other types of games. You're a little late to the game, I guess, and if you're just getting into Cyberpunk at this point, but it's still a very relevant game, and they've got new expansion packs and everything coming out for it. And you've got a 30 series. It's very difficult to get the 50 series card right now, as everybody is aware, even despite several months in after the launch. AMD has tried to help curb that with some of their supply, but even then, the MSRP and prices are going up. They're not making the 40 series anymore, and those prices are through the roof. So does it behoove you to use a 3090 and try to play this game? Let's look at some of the settings. Looking at the recommended system requirements, you've got an RTX 2060 Super. So can you use an RTX 3090? Absolutely you can. But jumping right ahead, because I'm not designing these to be long, drawn-out videos, you want to see what the settings you can use. So let's look at some of these settings, but first, when I'm doing my testing, I'm not using one system and a card. I'm using multiple systems to see if the results are repeatable and if there's any difference in the system configurations that might affect gameplay. So looking at the Test Bench V2, which is an i9-14900KF, it's 32 gig of DDR5 memory. And the Penthouse system, and if you follow along, you understand my nomenclature. If you're not following along, shame on you. But the Penthouse system is the i9-14900K, and it had 32 gig of memory, but that's two i9-14900Ks with 32 gigs. So I ended up spending more money and grabbing a couple sticks for a total of 64 gig. And I'm using two different Penthouse systems. All I did was increase the memory in one of them. And so now I've got an i9-14900K with 32, and then an i9-14900K with 64, so the only difference is the memory. And then I am also using the SimRig, which is an i9-14900KS with 64 gigs, so the processor is the difference. And then here on my main office rig is also a KS with 96 gig of memory. Does any of these systems play a role? And I've been doing a lot of research and study and looking at other people's variants of systems and looking for CPU bottlenecking. Cat's out of the bag. These systems aren't different enough to really experience bottlenecking. I'm putting together even slower systems to try to find that sticking point with the 14th gen CPUs. So stick with me here. There'll be more systems that are coming out and for the testing. So all of these systems get the 3090 plugged in. What you also see is my vidlock, my undervolt, what I use to try to keep these cool. A lot more detail on my channel. If you're interested in following along, please do. You might find that interesting if you have something of a curiosity about the 14th gen CPUs. Still very relevant today. You can still buy them, and they're still very potent systems. When you're looking at guidelines for frame rates, now this is where it can get subjective. Obviously, you want to at least try to get somewhere around 60 frames per second. I like to have a little bit more headroom and give myself around 80. There's been other content creators say 100 or bust. I don't know that you necessarily have to go that high, but there are options here with a 3090 that you can get very good frame rates. So a lot of this is subjective. What I find is acceptable, you might want to tweak a little bit. So this gives you a good ballpark to get into the range of good gameplay. With an RTX 3090 and looking at 1080p, you can set your 1080p at ultra settings with no frame gen, no ray tracing. Frame generation wasn't really an option for the 30 series. But anyway, looking at ultra settings, you've got 160 average frames per second with great mins and maxes. Obviously, 1080p is no sweat for a 3090. Let's look at 1440p. When you're looking at 1440p, you can keep the ultra settings and still get over 100 frames per second average. And this is true across all the systems that I've used in the testing. This is really the sweet spot for me. I like 1440p gaming. So this is no problem. Crank the settings up, enjoy your 3090, enjoy the game. What if you're one of those 4K gamers that really are trying to push 4K and the limits? Can you use a 3090 for 4K? Yes. Yes, you can. But if you look, you've got DLSS quality with medium settings. And it is playable. You've got averages of about 90 frames per second with reasonable mins and maxes. Now, you're going to have to figure out if you like those particular settings. If you don't want to drop to medium settings, perhaps play around with go back to high settings, but you're going to have to drop your DLSS quality in order to maintain your desirable frame rates. So that gives you at least a good place to start. Can you get a good experience with an RTX 3090? Absolutely. Enjoy the game with a 3090. It's not imperative that you rush out and spend thousands of dollars on a 40 series card. Yes, thousands of dollars still for a 40 series. Or these very inflated prices for the 50 series cards, irrespective of the hype around them. You have a good uplift in performance. But my point is, you may not need to go out and rush out and do that in order to be able to play particular Cyberpunk. And if you've got a 3090, hang in there. You've got good 1080p, 1440p, and even 4K options with this card, even with the 30 series flagship. So enjoy the game. More to come. God bless.